I knew that if I didn't get out of that bed, I was dead. There was absolutely no question. So I tumbled out of the bed and landed face first. But there was no pain. I was above it. This light is love, euphoria, peace, calm, all the things I was looking for that I never had. I was one with the light. And he says, it's okay. Don't be scared. You can come into the light. So I proceed to go in. And as I go in, it
Still have questions? Well, join me live for Wake Up Wednesdays at 5 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Mountain, 7 p.m. Central, and 8 p.m. Eastern. I'll answer your questions, and you might see a familiar face. Together, we're waking up the collective. Thank you for watching. My guest today is Dr. Ray Catania, who had a near-death experience. So, Ray, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Lori, it's my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me today.
Oh, you're welcome. I'm so glad. I love these conversations. They always feed my soul. And you were not a stranger to experiences. And I think I would love to start with the one that you had with the near drowning when you were young.
Sure. I was about 10 years old or so when that occurrence happened, and it was very profound for a particular reason. I had just learned to swim. It took me a little longer than most kids to learn to swim. And my parents took me and my brother to the beach, and I was very excited about it because I was going to use my new skill. So I went right out there and started swimming. I recall that just before I had gotten into the ocean, my dad went over to the lifeguard and they had some words about something. And my father came back and mentioned something about an undertow, but that meant nothing to me at that age. So I was just so excited to be there. I just went for it. And what was happening is I noticed after swimming for a while that I was separated from the other kids. All the other kids, or all the other people really, were on one side and I was on the other, and I was kind of like isolated. I had floated out much farther than I noticed. And then as I was trying to swim back, the undertow, which he was talking about earlier, was pulling me back out. So I was kind of swimming in place, and I started to get nervous and I started to panic, and I couldn't figure out how I was going to get out of this situation. Very young at the time. And I'm just trying to wave to anybody that'll pay attention or watch, look, anything at all. But the lifeguard is saving people on the other side because there's a whole group of people there and I'm the only one over here. So I'm not getting his attention, and I'm trying to get anybody at shore at this point, and it's not working. So I basically start to go under. I come up, I go under, and I think I'm going to die. And this is my first recollection of having an experience with the being I'm about to tell you about. I hear, and I'm going to say hear for lack of a better word. I know you understand. You don't actually hear. It's a download effect. It's just a transmission of information. The being says, calm down, swim sideways, take all the time you need. It's always in threes. Calm down, swim sideways, take all the time that you need. I don't question where this came from, but I also can't calm down because I'm a little kid. It's not going to happen. So he does that for me. And I'm calling him a he because I have no idea if it's he, she. So I feel warmth from the top of my head to the bottom of my feet. I'm in an ice cold ocean, and I'm warm. So I begin to swim sideways, and I'm swimming very slowly. And it did take a very long time to get to shore. And when I did, I collapsed and I just kind of fell. And other adults were running over to see if I was okay. And then I started to panic more because I'm like stranger danger. I'm not used to this. I was taught to stay away from strangers, and they're trying to touch me. So I'm trying to run away from them. And I was so far down the beach at this point. Um, what I later learned is to get out of an undertow, that type of a situation, that type of current, you are supposed to swim sideways or on an angle. I had no idea. So he guided me at that point to safety. And that's the first time I can remember, but there are many, many ones after that. And I remember walking back and just kind of, I was so far down. I'm trying to find my parents in the blanket. And I just remember thinking to myself, this is my life right here. I have to take care of myself. No one's taking care of me. And
Like all
in,
the adults around you had failed you.
yeah, yeah, exactly. And that's the way it was.
That's so sad for a little kid.
But it was important that I knew it then
Tell
for
me
what was
why.
coming
Why was it
next.
important that you knew it then?
It was a very tumultuous household. A lot of drama, trauma, violence, things that kids shouldn't see, be a part of, or anything else. And I would spend a lot of time in isolation, um, hiding from what was going on, not coming out until it was over, simply because I didn't want to be a part of that. So I would hide under the bed, the basement, the yard, and mentally or psychologically, I should say, I didn't want to be there so badly that I didn't know that I was doing this, but I was trying to change my reality. Now, there's no phones, there's no gadgets, I have no games, there's nothing to play with. It's me looking at a wall. I'm doing a version of meditating, but I don't know that at that age. All I know is I'm pushing and I'm saying, I want out of here. I want to get out of here. And then I do. And it's very hard to explain when I say that I do because I knew I was there, but at the same time I wasn't. And it's the best way I can explain it was like I had imaginary friends that I could kind of drift away with just up here, and I could have a conversation that would take me away from what was happening in the house until it was over. And then I would come back. And I once revealed that to one of my real living friends who told her parents, who told my parents, and that did not go over well. There's something wrong with you. Don't ever tell anybody that. They're going to lock you up and throw away the key. Every experience that was paranormal in any way, shape, or form was discarded. It was a religious household. So that stuff doesn't happen here.
Oh, interesting. So I'm also curious, how did you discern that it wasn't just in your head, that this was something that was more real?
That happened much later in life. At the time, when they told me I was crazy, I believed I was crazy.
Mm, wow. That's That's interesting. So, you know what I'm going to ask you here? I would love for you to give people advice if they have a sensitive child, because people are so much more open to this now. What
Mhm.
advice would you give to a parent who has a child that says something similar to what you said?
I've had parents bring their children to me to find out what they're seeing, to find out if there's something that they're interacting with. And I would say 8 out of 10 of them are the real deal.
And when you say the real deal, tell me what that means to you.
They can interact with energy beings, orbs. Sometimes they can actually see what looks like a human in on the what I call the movie screen. I look for things that are the similarities, the way I receive information, and I probe and I dig, and they wind up often saying things they could not possibly know. They can't
So,
make. They're just too young.
evidential, like something that they're able to confirm outside of themselves.
It's something, well, the parent will do that for me. The parent will say this was said, and there's no way the child could know that. And then I'll go into, well, what happened first, second, third? And they start saying something like, well, first I got the vibrations, and then it felt like it was kind of cold. And then it was like I was watching television, and boom, then I know they're real. It's exactly the way I get it.
Well, let's go back to the voice that you heard in the water. Did you feel after that experience that that was really real, or did you too dismiss that as being a figment of your imagination?
In the moment, I think all of this is real, and I don't think anything of it because I'm a kid. So I think it's perfectly normal, and we all have these spirit guides. We all have imaginary friends that we can talk to. It's not until I get shut down and told how crazy I am that I have to shut this down. But if they're not real, then what is real? Because this other reality is terrible. And you can't tell me there's some loving God that would allow this to be. So I rebelled against religion and chose to be an atheist. I don't even know that I knew what that meant, but I knew it meant I was not going to be what religion was in the household. And it didn't matter what it was, irrelevant, but I would have rebelled against any of it.
Wow. Okay, so you have this experience, and how old are you with this one?
About 10.
Okay. And then you have your NDE.
NDE at 20.
So I'm going to let you just tell your entire NDE story in any way that you want to share it.
Sure. When I had my NDE, like I said, I was about 20. And it was first, I should say that I was living a lifestyle that was very reckless and a lot of self sabotage, drinking, drugs, whatever, pushing it to the limits and not really. I guess I was a very depressed kid. I came from chaos. So I felt comfortable in chaos. I say often chaos was my comfort zone, and nobody should ever have chaos as their comfort zone, because then when things are calm and they're nice and they're loving, then you feel out of place, and that is no way to grow up. And but all the things that I did, they actually didn't kill me. What did was a fire in my home at the age of 20. I was still living at home with my parents. And the first floor, imagine there's a stove in the kitchen on the first floor, and then right above that is my bedroom. So I'm sleeping right above the stove. This is an important part because there's a gas leak and it's natural gas and it's leaking from the stove, and natural gas rises. So it's rising into my room as I'm sleeping and I'm inhaling it. I do not know this. I'm sleeping. In the morning, my mother must have turned the stove on and there was a big ball of fire and it caught the wall and there was some smoke. The way I understand the story, my father put it out relatively quickly, but they did call 911. And now I'm hearing the commotion downstairs. I hear the fire trucks. I hear the police department. What's going on? And I try to get up. And this is the first time I notice that something's really wrong because I can't move my legs. I can't move my head. I can't yell. Certain parts of my body just feel like they're weighed down and I cannot get them to move. My arms, my right arm worked well, my left, not so much. But I have to get out of this bed. No one's coming for me. Here we are again. So I grab the edge of the bed and I pull to the best of my ability. And I remember I passed out a couple of times, but then I would hear the commotion again and it would wake me and make me come to. And I would try to shake it off and I would pull again and pull again. I knew that if I didn't get out of that bed, I was dead. There was absolutely no question. So I pulled and I tumbled out of the bed and landed face first, but there was no pain. Usually there's that couple of second pause when you take a shot, the pain kicks in, but it takes a couple seconds. Well, that never happened. And it didn't happen because I wasn't in that body, I was above it. The room was a perfect square. And if you can imagine that, I'm in the upper left hand corner and I'm looking down on my lifeless body. Everything is very vivid, very, very vivid. all it's detailed, it's vivid, it's very colorful. I don't have another word other than vivid. And adjacent in the other corner is a cone shaped white light. Now, this calling this a light is doing it no justice. This is not a light, but I don't have another word for it. This light is love, euphoria, peace, calm, all the things I was looking for that I never had. And it was shining on me, my energetic self, not my dead self, but me. Not only was it shining on me, but what I noticed was I was one with the light. I was a part of the light. And here's where that being is again at the end of that tunnel. And he says, it's okay. Don't be scared. You can come into the light. So I proceed to go in. And as I go in, the euphoria is increasing and increasing. So I'm like, this is amazing. I want to get to the other side. But what happens is in that moment, my father, he must have heard me hit the floor, came running up to see what happened to me, found my dead body. And I'm watching him as he's holding me in his arms and he's crying and he's screaming for the paramedics. And I'm like, who is this guy? All of a sudden, there's all this outpour of emotion and all this love. I've never seen anything like that before, but I longed for it. I wanted it. I wanted that relationship. I was happy to know that, he really did care. And so I asked the being at the end of the light if it was okay if I went back. And I don't know if that's why I was allowed to go back, but I did. And I did not wake up in his arms. I woke up on the living room floor, face up. When I woke up, I had two paramedics on top of me with all their gadgets and all their gear and reviving me. And I was like, guys, get off me, get off me. I feel great. What, I was trying to figure out what was happening. And I just remember feeling really good. I was like, why are you working on me? I feel better than I've ever felt. And they're like, kid, just lay there. You're not okay. And I'm like, but did you see the light? Did you hear the voice? Did you guys see that stuff? And now they're looking at each other like, okay, they got the eyebrow up and they're starting to think that I'm crazy. So I know enough to just stop talking when that happens. And I remember just sitting in the hospital trying to process this, um, trying to figure out what just happened. And in those days, I had no computer to go to. We didn't have a cell phone. I'm really showing my age now, but there was no one for me to take this to except my parents, who told me what? You're crazy. That didn't happen. Don't ever tell anybody that again. And there I was, stuck with I'm crazy. So I started to believe it. So I had to find an analytical way to just kind of put this away. So the way I did it was I figured, well, I fell in front of a window. That's a fact. And it was likely a sunny day. And that was the white light. And the voice and everything else was hallucinations from inhaling gas fumes. So I chalked it up to that, very analytical, put it in a box, put it away. I'm back to being an atheist. It's easier that way.
Wow. So I'm curious about the scene that you described with your dad. And it sounds like growing up, you didn't have much affectionate from him, where he was outwardly demonstrative with how he felt about you. So were you hearing his voice speaking these things? Was he thinking them and you were hearing them? How did that work?
That's very interesting. I did not hear them, but I knew that I could see what was happening very, very clearly. So it was like his mouth was moving, he was yelling, but I wasn't hearing it because I was interacting with the being. Um, yeah, you're the first person ever asked me that. That's very interesting. It was almost like a soundless movie. And I
Hmm.
think maybe I had the choice to tune in, but I wanted to speak to who was at the end of that tunnel.
Right.
But I could see. And I knew what was being said without hearing it. And I also knew what we were saying without hearing it. The five physical senses are kind of not the same. They're not, you don't need them. You can still get the information that would normally come through that way, but you're not getting it that way. I don't have any eyes, so clearly I can't see that way. I don't have ears, but I'm here. I can hear. You know what I mean? It's very difficult to explain. I know you get it.
I
Um,
I truly do get it, but for the people who are watching, you just said, "I don't have ears and I don't have eyes," and I know you can see your lifeless body in front of you, and you're in this room, and you see the light coming through in the other corner of the being of love. But did you have a chance to look at the reflection of you, either look down at
oh
you?
yeah,
You did.
I
Tell me
saw
what you
myself.
saw.
Well, it was pretty graphic actually. When I had this gray sweatsuit on, and I just remember that I saw urine coming out of my body like I was peeing myself, which is the first thing that happens when you die. You can't hold in urine. So I just happened to notice that. That was the first thing I saw. And then the next thing, my father came into the room and grabbed me.
No, I mean you as the observer of your body. You know that there's an energy of light that you see with whatever vision you have. But I would imagine in a bedroom, you've got mirrors potentially in there, or maybe there's a reflection, or maybe you look down at yourself. Do you see what
Oh,
your spirit body looked like? Do you have any
no,
idea?
no. There was only one mirror in that room, and I did not look at it, and I was not in front of it. I didn't even think
How did you feel?
like I was the light.
You
I was a
did.
part of the light. Yeah, there was no. I was one with it.
So you're growing up in this super religious household who I'm assuming believes in a God that's very much a man looking God sitting on the throne, the biblical kind of God. And
Judgmental.
yeah, and you're judgmental, right? And you're seeing this being that's emanating love. Do you have an instant recognition of that being? Are you guessing? Like, what are you going through in the spirit form of yourself with your ray thoughts when this happens?
I feel an overwhelming sense of trust for the being. And if you know anything about me at that time in my life, I don't trust anyone.
Very interesting.
But that being I could trust.
Tell
And
me
I
more.
I don't know why. I just know that that was an energy, for lack of a better word, that I could say anything to, be anything with, that was going to be there to help me. And in hindsight, when I look backwards and I look, hindsight's 2020, I can see all the other times he was there. But I didn't know that when I was 10. And I didn't know that in the other times when he was there to save me. But now there's this feeling of overwhelming love and trust. And I think it's both ways.
Makes sense if you're connected.
Yeah.
So, who
Well, I mean, I think
was,
he trusted me too. I think that
hmm,
the love and the trust went both ways, and that felt good.
I bet
That
it
felt
did.
good.
So who was that light being that you saw?
My spirit guide is all I can say. I believe his name to be Thaddius. Um, he told me his name once. It's actually a funny story. Um, I asked him many times when I learned how to meditate and I learned how to communicate. I was like, can you tell me your name? I want to get to know you. It was like 3 years in, and I didn't know his name. And he said it right before I was going to sleep. And what I teach all my clients is if you get something right before you go to sleep or when you wake up, you must write that down because it's very fragile information, right? And I didn't take my own advice and I did not write it down and I could not remember. I was like, oh, I was talking to my wife. I was like, it's like a T, Teddy, something. I don't Theodore. And I just couldn't remember it. And I was so frustrated. I asked him again, and I would not tell me for 3 more years. And I'm on another podcast with another medium who just blurts out his name in the first 5 minutes and says, Thaddius is here, right? And I was like, you actually see me go stunned because, and then I proceeded to tell her a story about he would not tell me his name and you just outed him. And, because he was trying to teach me a lesson,
Your
like
spirit has a sense
practice
of
what you
humor for sure.
preach. Yeah. He's taught me lessons my whole life. He's like, practice what you preach there, bro.
I want to share something because I know that it's pretty natural when people wake up spiritually to be connected to their spirit guides. And it's normal for people to want to have a name that goes along with it. And I had had a few different readings with mediums, and I had asked people, and sometimes they knew, sometimes they didn't say anything, but was reading this book that was giving you guidance on how to ask and hear a spirit guide's name. And one of the pieces of advice, just like you said, was to do it right before you go to bed. And so I did. And I went to bed, and I had a flip phone at the time that had an alarm attached to it, like when you would charge it. And I had been outside working all day in this garden planting bulbs. And I was connected to a man named Mark, who was the lead guitarist of the band Starship. And so we were no longer together. I would remember anytime a Starship song played because that always felt significant for me. None had played while I was planting those bulbs. I had my alarm set with my regular alarm music. And in the way before my alarm was supposed to go off, my alarm clock shot to life and played the song Sarah by Starship. And
Mm,
I immediately, my first thought when I heard it was, that's my spirit guide's name. And then later, I had two different mediums bring it up and confirm it.
mm,
So
it's wild.
they
That's
will
great.
they will answer you.
Mm-hmm.
They will respond. You have to be open. And
Mm-hmm.
I would never have picked a name like Sarah because I would have picked a name more like Thaddius. I think that they would have less Anglo-Saxon normal names, you
I
know.
didn't even know it was a name. I had to look it up.
That's
And
crazy.
actually, what I found, and I'm not big on looking things up on the internet because I think that we all see things, we all interpret things differently, and there's no one thing across the board. But sure enough, Thaddeus was the 12th apostle of Christ. You probably know him as Saint Jude.
Oh, interesting.
Uh, I'm not saying that's the same person. I'm
Yeah.
just Thaddeus. That's what came up. I
Mm.
do think sometimes somebody asked me about a story that was in the book when I had to interpret a dolphin. And my wife was like, well, let's just look it up on the internet. And I said, no, you don't get it. It's not that simple. You're going to get what somebody else thinks a dolphin is, right? That's their interpretation of the dolphin. It's not across the board. We all build our own vocabularies and they all have different meanings. And so, anyway, she comes back with this interpretation that was so perfect that I was like, oh my God, I can't. That now I was like, all right, and I realized it's not what was on the internet. It was given to her to give to me. There's something bigger at play there. And it had little,
Always.
little to do with the internet. Right.
So you have this experience of love and acceptance and trust. And now you wake up, and because of your previous experiences, I'm guessing that you don't want to share this after what happened with paramedics. So, how does this experience make your life different? Because you said that you had become agnostic to atheist in your thought process and belief system at that time.
So, um, as much as I try to put it away in that little box in my brain, I believed what I saw. It was too relevant, too vivid, too everything just to be dismissed. And when I would try to dismiss it, it would come back. So, but here's the thing. Now I come back, right? I want this relationship with my father. I never have it. Nothing changes in my household. Everything's just the way it was yesterday. Um, so I want to do over. I want to go back. I love that light. Now I really start pushing the envelope. And I start working for some shady characters. I don't care what happens. I don't care if I live. I don't care if I die. I have no kids. I have no wife. No one's dependent upon me. I really don't feel like it makes any difference. So I start leading a really reckless lifestyle, a lot of alcohol, a lot of drugs, a lot of everything. And like I said, I was working in bars for these people, and there was a time I was leaving the bar, and I would just put some stuff like some glasses, and I was putting things away, and I was about to walk out, and on one side there were these guys that I knew with the boss, and the other side there were these guys that I had never seen before. And that wasn't really that unusual, except that there were people I didn't see before, and this is after hours. And so one of the guys says, give me Johnny on the rocks." And I look over at the boss. He gives me the head nod so I can pour it, and I do, and I hand it to him. And he goes, "Not that shit." He knocks it off the bar, and he says, "Sorry, I don't know if I could say that.
Fine.
Give me the good stuff." There's a lot of words. I'll try to not to say them. Not that. Give me the good stuff. So to get to the good stuff, I have to unlock the cabinet. So I have to bend down and unlock the cabinet to take out, the other. He gives me the head nod. I know I can do it. I go down to do it, and I hear pop, 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 and I know that, I know what this is. They're not firecrackers. I know what's happening, but I don't know how to get out of there. I don't even know if they remember I'm down there trying to get this bottle out. I don't know who's dead. I don't know who's alive. I don't know who's shooting at whom. I just know that there's a shooting in right on the other side of that bar. So I stay there, and I hear side door, side door, side door. It's him. Side door, side door, side door. I can't get to the side door because they will see me. Give me something else. Side door, side door, side door. What have I got to lose? So I run for the side door, which is right at the end of the bar. I get through it, but that I'm not out of the building yet. I still have to go make you have to make a left, another left, go into another door, and then there's a long corridor that takes you to the fire exit, which is another side door. And I park my car right outside that door, and I have my own parking space, and it's on the other side of the building, but I put my car there that night. Don't know
For
why.
sure, Jen.
Don't know why. I mean, it's literally the weirdest thing. Part of the weirdest thing of that night, believe it or not, is where I put my car. But I got away. And that's just, again, one of the many times he has stepped in. Um, so although I'm very confused, I'm just, my brain is all over the place. And the only way I know how to cope with this is alcohol and drugs. That's it. It starts becoming difficult to sleep. I start knowing things. I start feeling things. I remember moving into my first apartment, and I was like, this is going to be the place. We're going to have parties all the time. This is going to be great. I'm going to have my friends over. That never happened because from the first day I moved in, that place was filled with people already. I just couldn't see them. I could feel the presence. I could feel the emotion. I could feel it pushing up against me. And I could not sleep. I had the worst case of insomnia, more alcohol, more drugs to try to get to sleep. And everything electrical would not work. Then it would work. Then it would not. We had a maintenance guy that I used to call like every other day. And he came up and he said, "Listen, I'm going to tell you this one time. Never call me again. There's nothing wrong with your place. You're crazy." There it is again. I'm always, after a while, you start to believe you're crazy. Even though I'm trying to cling to this as a reality because it's pretty cool if it is, I can't because everybody's telling me I'm crazy. And insanity, I understand. This other thing, I don't. And I have nobody to talk to. So I understand it. I don't know if this is a true fact, but I understand there was an organization that did a study on NDEers, and it took on average 14 years, I think it was, to integrate.
I heard that
Mine
as well.
was
Yep.
20 something years.
Yeah. It's not
Um,
uncommon. I've talked to many people who took 20, 25 plus years before they told. Who was the first person that you told?
mm, my wife, my second wife, um, when I was in my early 30s, I got married and we had two kids very quickly. That marriage fell apart, but we still had the kids, of course, and those kids were now my reason for living. And so I got sober. I went back to college. I got a great job. I became a pillar of my community. I just was this different person and I got away from everything. But there was always this interaction or things that would happen around me. I just wouldn't tell anybody. I was just never going to tell anybody. So I had been divorced for a while, years, in fact. And I said, well, I think it's time that maybe I try to get serious with somebody. So I went online to meet somebody. And when you go to these websites, which I know you've never gone to the websites, but I went to all of them and I was trying to pick which one I was going to join, right? And they put examples of, people that are in your area. These ladies are in your area. And the third one down on the right, I knew her right away. I had never seen her before in my life, but I knew her. That was my wife. There was no question, nothing whatsoever. So I joined the site and I put this whole email together trying to explain to her, I only joined this to send this one email to you, more or less because you're my wife. I know this sounds crazy, but if you'll have dinner with me, I'll explain the whole thing. And she's like, you're crazy. And I said, I know. Everybody tells me. I know. But we had dinner and we got married and she's my soulmate. And here's why. After we start dating about 2 months, things have kind of settled down in the spiritual realm. I'm not thinking about it anymore. It's there, but I'm okay. And but when I meet her, this is the first time I see spirit in the form of a silhouette of a human with a face. And it's a man. And he comes to me. The movie screen, I always call it the movie screen. It opens up and there's a man on the movie screen and he's talking to me. And he says, I effed up. I made a mistake. You can help her. I cannot. And I was at work. It was on a Friday. I looked around to see if anybody else had seen that. But here we go again. But this is much bigger than anything I've ever seen before. This is much bigger, much bolder. This is in my face. Before that, there was feelings, there was electricity, there was other things. There was nothing like anything in a human form. Even the being was not in a human form at the end of the tunnel. It was just energy, lines. This is a man. Um, he continues all night long. I go home. I say, I have a headache. It's a Friday night. And I said, I'm just going to go to sleep. This will be gone by morning. This is just one of those crazy things and it's just going to pass and I'm going to be fine. First thing Saturday morning, there he is again. And he's there what seems like every hour on the hour. He will not stop. I effed up. I made a mistake. You can help her. I cannot. By Sunday, I can't function. I can't drive. I can't have a conversation without him interrupting me. I am at the counter of CVS trying to pay for my stuff. And the woman says to me, are you okay, sir? And I said, no, no. I don't know what I expected her to do for me, but I couldn't take it anymore. And I said, no. And I took my card and I went back to my car and I just put my head down and I wept like a child. I was like, I did everything. I went to rehab. I went back to college. I took care of my kids. I gave them a better life than I ever had. I did everything by the book, everything that I was supposed to do. And now I am certifiable. And I was angry. I was really angry. And the first thing I checked was to make sure that my paperwork was in order for my children, my will, do not resuscitate or DNI. I didn't have DNR, but I had the other one, do not intubate. I'm going back to the light. Do not save me. And my brother's like, "Are you okay?" And I was like, "No, I just want to make sure you have all this stuff just in case anything happens. But I am planning now for my death or for the time when I'm so incapacitated that I won't know what's going on." And now I have to tell this woman I just fell in love with to move on because she has the right to know. There's no point in not telling her. It's not fair. So I finally try to get the courage to tell her. And that wasn't easy. And if the story's not crazy enough, she's a doctor of psychology and neuropsychology by trade. Oh, yeah. Can't make this stuff up. Can't. So I'm going to tell a doctor of psychology who I love very much. I see people and they're not really there. I'm not expecting anything other than call this doctor, never call me again. That's not what I get. She goes, tell it to me. She leans in. She says, say it again. I said, well, he says, she goes, I know what he says. Tell me what he looks like. Beard, mustache, husky guy, thick black hair. I effed up. I made a mistake. You can help her. I cannot. She's like, and you said he's where? And I said, right here. And she goes, that sounds like my dad. And I was like, babe, your dad is dead. And now I think she's crazy. You think I see dead people? Check, please. I'm getting out of here. Because I never would have thought that I'm seeing dead people. That did
Like the
not
Sixth
register.
Sense in reverse, Ray.
Okay. Like that did not come to my mind. I don't know what a medium is. I don't know what a I know what a psychic is barely, but I'm so far out of this world, living in a different place, a different time. And here it is, it's dropping into my lap. And she says, well, maybe you're just a medium and you don't know it. And I said, babe, what's a medium? And she said, why don't we do
I'd like to
this?
think of myself as a large, maybe.
Right. Exactly. So she says, I just made an appointment to see a medium. And why don't you come with me and you can talk to her because she's not often in our area and you can just kind of tell her what you see, how you see it, and just, maybe you'll get something out of it, some validation. And I was like, wow, I don't know where you came from, but thank you. And I did it. And I went in to meet the medium and I said, I was just petrified. She's like, are you going to go in first? And I was like, yeah, because if I don't, I'm going to run. Um, I've been in some scary situations, but meeting this woman is the scariest right now for me. So I say, hi, I'm Ray. And she says, what brings you here today, Ray? And I said, well, sometimes, and I'm really hesitant to say this, right? Because it's like killing me to say it. Sometimes I see people and they're not actually there. And she goes, ha, 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 me too, me too. And she broke the ice right there. And I was like, okay. And then I opened up and I told her everything, premonitions that I've had, things that I've seen, everything since day one, the being, the NDE, and she embraced it all and validated it all for me. And I'm in my late 40s at this time. That's how long it took me to find a person on this planet that understood me, that wasn't ready to lock me up and throw away the key. It
How
was
beautiful is that? Well, the
magical.
serendipity of your wife actually having a medium appointment when all of this happens, that cannot be lost on you.
No, no. And luckily, she took me under her wing for the first year and taught me how to navigate it because I
Mhm.
really needed that. There were times when it was so overpowering like that. And that message, by the way, wound up saving somebody's life. And that's why he was so adamant that I had to have that information to give to her.
How did that
It
save
was
somebody's
her
life?
dad. I'm going to try to say it and protect the people
Sure.
involved. Um, he got us to bring a family member to a doctor where they would discover something that was needed to be addressed immediately. There was no signs of there being any issue or problem or anything at all. And this was the type of person who would just not go to the doctor ever, like until she was like really, 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 really sick.
Right.
So we devised the plan because I'm like, we can't just say, I spoke to, who, and he says you have to go to the doctor because I don't want anyone to know anything. I'm scared of that still. I'm all ego at this point. What are people going to think? What are they going to think of me? What's going to happen? So, but it worked. We pulled it off.
Wow. So, Ray, are you still an atheist?
No, no way. But don't ask me what I
It was
am
more of a
because
rhetorical
I don't
question,
know
but
that either. I don't know.
well, I'm curious since you had this super religious upbringing, was there any point in time where you actually did share this once you knew what it was with anybody in your family?
Oh, now it's out. Well, there's two books, and and I actually have a great relationship with my mother now. After she read the book, she said, "Wow, you must hate me." And I said, "Absolutely not." I said, "I completely understand you." I said, "I understand everything so much better. It's so much clearer. Um, there's no ill will at all." And it's unfortunate now because she's just been given, a certain amount of time before she will pass. Um, and it took this long for that to happen, and that's unfortunate, but I'm thankful that we have this time together that we have right now.
Do you think that we pick our parents?
Tough question. um Ask that 10 people, I think you'll get 10 different answers. I don't know. I just don't know. I'm not sure, but I do think that karma transcends lives. So I do think that we are placed in situations based upon our past lives and things that we're here to evolve. We're here to become something greater than ourselves at a higher level of consciousness, I believe. Um, and if, like the Buddha explained, when he died, he said it was his seventh life, and he told his disciples on his deathbed, "You have to carry this forward because I'm not coming back." And when asked why he wasn't coming back, he said, "It's because I've become enlightened. I've done what I was meant to do." So if that's the goal before we move on to what is next, then I think our actions play a key role in our reincarnation. And this is why it's so important. I'm not the only part of that light. We're all a part of that light. Like, we're all one in that light. We're all going back to that light. So to hurt each other is to hurt yourself. And that that karma will transcend. So your next life is not going to be great if you hurt people in this one because you're hurting yourself.
Tell me what you mean by karma, because I know karma has a lot of different definitions that I've come
Yeah,
across as I've been interviewing lots of different people.
it's action. What is the actual definition? I knew it was. Is it action?
I thought it was cause and effect.
Cause and effect. Well, let's use it that way because that's kind of the way I see it anyway. Is we can create good karma by doing good things, and it causes a ripple effect, and that ripple effect goes out and touches other people. We may not even know that it touches other people, but it elevates us on our journey because we did something that was positive. Now, on the other hand, we all have these abilities and we can use them for things that are bad. And if we choose to do that, maybe when you come back, you're going to come back as a, I don't know, a starving kid in a third world country. It's not going to be the same. It's going to be worse because now you've got to evolve from a more difficult place. You're going to be
So do
given
you,
a harder challenge
interesting. So do you
to
think people who
become
have,
enlightened.
I'm going to use this analogy because it's just what popped into my mind.
Hmm.
If people have money and they have what seems to be like a picture perfect life, does that mean that they're more evolved?
No, that's my number one client. My number one client will sit in front of me. They have, the 2.2 kids, the four houses, and the house on the hill, and all that. And they come to me and say, I'm completely miserable and I don't know why. And it's because you're living someone else's ideal of what happiness looks like. You're not living happiness. This is what your mom
I'm just trying to
is.
reconcile it with the example that you gave about if you did things that were bad, that you would come back as like the starving child. And so I was trying to figure out how that kind of factored into if you were in a certain incarnation right now, what that would potentially mean.
I don't think money has anything to do with it whatsoever. Money is completely irrelevant. It's how you affect other people. And do you do it in a positive manner or a negative manner? When you walk away from somebody, do you leave them with something that's positive? And it doesn't matter, it could be small, it could be big. It's not, there's no measurement. It's just a matter of who are you? What type of person are you? Each day, I think that we should do something for someone and something for ourselves
Oh, that's
every
beautiful.
day.
Tell me, I think a lot of people listening will be like, I get it, doing something for somebody else, but tell us why it's important to do something for ourselves.
Self care is not selfish. Self care is important so that we can care for others. Because if we don't take care of ourselves, we can't take care of others. This is why the pilot says, when if the airbags come down, what do you call it? The mask. You don't put it on the child first. You put it on you first, so that you can help the other people. That's the reason behind it. So if you don't take care of yourself and you have no self care, you don't have anything left for others. This is why the pilot says, when if the airbags come down, what do you call it? The mask. You don't put it on the child first. You put it on you first, so that you can help the other people. That's the reason behind it. So if you don't take care of yourself and you have no self care, you don't have anything left for others. And too many people think that that's the way to live, but it's not, because you could do so much more. So every day, one thing for you, selfishly, one thing for somebody else, only for them.
Beautiful. Well, I think if everybody did that, the world would look a little bit different.
I think so too.
Oh, well, Ray, I would imagine that there are people who are watching who would love to connect with you. So tell us how people can connect with you and tell us a little bit more about your two books.
My first book was The Atheist in the Afterlife, and it tells the story of how I went from atheism to being a believer, of much of what we talked about, but there's a lot of more in there, in depth, more communications, more things that transpired. But it's really the story of my first awakening and how it came to be. The second book is, what did I do after that awakening? What did I learn? I went back to college for metaphysics. I had mentors that taught me great things, both informal and formal education that went on for a decade thereafter. So I've learned quite a bit, and a lot of that went into that second book. There's still plenty of experiences and things, but I always try to, if I'm going to like put a lesson, or so to speak, in there, I try to use my real life example. Both books are just like me talking to you. We're just sitting and we're having coffee, and I'm taking you on this journey through my life, which is pretty crazy. So there's never a dull moment, but I try to match up, like, there's a moral to every story that I learned. And I was like, okay, this is why this happened. This trauma happened so I could learn this, so I could help someone else with that. And I try to like match those up to the best of my ability in the book.
Great. And then do you have a website or any other way that people can connect with you?
Yes, I also do one-on-one coaching, and that's available at raycatania.com. It's just
Let's
my
spell it for the
name.com.
people who are listening.
RAYCATANIA.com. And the books are up there too. Coaching. There's going to be online courses coming soon, and some other things in the works. So yeah, thank you for letting me say that. I really do
Of
appreciate that.
course.
That means a lot to
Oh,
me.
absolutely. Well, it's why people tune in, because they want to connect. They get something out of this, and
I
it
would love
happens
to
all the
connect.
time. Happens all the time. So I'm curious, for the people who are watching, have you had an experience with a spirit guide? Do you know what your spirit guide's name is? I'm just super curious about this for everybody. And even if you haven't, if you just want to write Waking Up the Collective or Collective to let us know you got this far, that really helps these videos. So I'm going to ask you one final question, Ray, which
Okay.
is,
Mhm.
what do you feel that you know for sure?
That there is an afterlife, and that our conscious mind is detachable from our body. It does live on. And I do think I even understand a little bit more because I did study some quantum physics on my own. But I think that I have a pretty good idea of where we go when we die. And I'm not talking about heaven or hell. I mean, where it exists here and now. Because energy, according to the first law of thermodynamics, no energy can leave the universe. No new energy can enter the universe. Energy must become something else and something else and something else. So our consciousness is made from our brain. It's created by the brain, but it is the mind, and the mind controls the brain and controls everything else. Where does that energy go? I think it becomes part of the dark energy that makes up 69% of the entire universe. And that would explain when we say the deceased are right here, they're right here because dark energy is between us. Dark energy is between me and Pluto, and it's everywhere. We can't see it. It's not dark because it's evil. It's dark because we can't see it, touch it, feel it, but we know it's there for a fact. So I think that that's where that energy goes. So the two things that I believe it really comes down to the one thing: we live on. This is not the end. No way. That's my
Yeah,
thing.
I can't argue with that. Well, Ray, this has been a great conversation. You've given us a lot of
Thank you.
things to think about. I think it's been super helpful, especially for the people out there who have kiddos that have experienced things like you did. So I want to thank you. Thank you so much for being
Thank you.
vulnerable to come on and share your experiences. And thank you for what you are doing to help wake up the collective. It is so needed right now.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure being here today. Thank you.
Aw. And of course, this show is absolutely nothing without all of you who tune in to watch, to listen, and to share these beautiful experiences with somebody who needs it. And if you still have questions, you can join me for Wake Up Wednesdays live at 5 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Mountain, 7 p.m. Central, and 8 p.m. Eastern. Thank you, everybody, for watching. I'm Lori Micah. If you like stories that open your heart and expand your soul, hit subscribe. This channel is Waking Up the Collective.